It was a bright May morning in Barcelona. The airport was full of different people, some saying goodbye to their loved ones with tears, while others welcomed them with happy faces and smiles. Hustle and bustle were prominent when an aeroplane landed, and some passengers came out of it. Among them, there was a man who had creases of stress on his face and anxiety in his eyes. He looked around, and at last found a familiar face among the sea of people. After almost half an hour, two men were sitting in front of each other in a restaurant in Marina. The waiter was serving them coffee while they both looked at each other with reluctant smiles. At last, one of the men sighed and took out a piece of paper from his pocket. He slid it toward the other man, who opened it with curiosity, and his eyes widened in shock. This meeting between two friends on a bright morning in May 2007 opened the chapter of one of the biggest scandals in Formula One history. A millionaire who couldn't even afford a photocopier sparked a propaganda campaign filled with lies, deception, arrests, F1 rivalries, and ultimately, a death. It was May 2, 2014, when a lorry driver was driving on the M20 highway in Kent. The weather was pleasant, the weekend was ahead, and he was humming softly to himself, enjoying the ride. It was 1:30 p.m., and he had to deliver goods to their owner as soon as possible. While driving and enjoying himself, he suddenly saw a man standing in the middle of the road. Panic spread across his face. He honked and slammed his foot on the brake. But it was already too late. The lorry hit the man, killing him on the spot. That man was Nigel Stepney, the main person who shocked the whole motorsport world in 2007. What really happened? Well, for this, we have to rewind the clock and go back to the Michael Schumacher era. Nigel Stepney gave his whole life to the motorsport world as a technician. He began his career at Lotus, then moved to Benetton, and later joined Ferrari. Until 1995, he worked alongside Mike Coughlin, who left Ferrari that year to join Arrows. After Coughlin's departure, Ross Brawn entered Ferrari as a technical director. Chief Executive Gene Todt, Ross Brawn, and Nigel Stepney made a dream team who aimed to make Ferrari the powerhouse of Formula One. At last, their dreams came true, and the Michael Schumacher era started. From 2000 to 2006, Ferrari was everywhere. That domination era is the golden chapter of Ferrari. But this era came to an end when Schumacher announced his retirement at the end of the 2006 season. But he was not the only one going away. It was Brawn, too, who announced he would be taking a sabbatical. Now, Stepney was hoping for Brawn's role, but there were two problems with it. One, he was not a technician, and the second, he didn't have an Italian passport. So Ferrari gave that position to Mario Almondo, leaving Stepney angry. He believed that Mario didn't deserve the position. So in February 2007, he gave an announcement to show his dissatisfaction with Ferrari. "I am looking at spending a year away from Ferrari," he told Autosport, and the news became a headline throughout the world. Ferrari decided to respond to him cautiously. The man had given a decade to the team, so they decided to give him another role. But the new role didn't give Nigel the satisfaction he was looking for. So, in his rage, he made two major mistakes in his life. One way to enter the garage of Ferrari and sabotage Felipe Massa's car. The other mistake was to call his old friend, Mike Coughlin, who was suffering at McLaren. Coughlin had left Mercedes in 2002 and went for an interview at McLaren. Although the officials frowned upon his jeans and lack of socks, they still gave him the job, because McLaren was already desperate. From 2002 to 2007, Mike Coughlin spent his time in the office of McLaren, making drawings of its new models and trying to make the next season their season. But he was failing at it. So, when his friend called him to vent his frustration, he did the same. That call gave Nigel a cruel idea of revenge. One day he broke into the office of McLaren and stole 780 pages of its confidential information. He came back home and sent an email to Coughlin with one of the Ferrari 2007 design drawings. Coughlin became excited, and soon a long thread of messages began between the two friends. Eventually, Coughlin grew worried about leaving digital evidence of what could become the biggest cheating scandal in motorsport history. So, he blocked Nigel's email, picked up the phone, and asked him to meet at a coffee shop. A couple of days later, Coughlin landed at the airport of Barcelona, where Nigel was already waiting for him. Both friends talked to each other in the restaurant at Marina. Coughlin, clearly uneasy about the whole situation, warned Nigel to stop stealing from Ferrari. But Nigel didn't care. Calmly, he pulled a single page from his pocket. It was a schematic of the Ferrari 2007 brake module. Coughlin glanced at it, memorized the key details, and handed it back. It was only on the way back to the airport that Nigel passed him a folder, 780 pages of Ferrari's most confidential data. Desperate Coughlin took it instantly. After dropping his friend at the airport, Nigel went back home, where he found police standing on his threshold. Before the police raided his house, something else was happening in the Ferrari. Ferrari found white powder around their cars, called the police, watched the CCTV footage, and found Nigel guilty. They checked his pockets on the spot and found white powder in them. Ferrari suspended him and sent that white powder to the forensic lab. After the results came out, police went to Nigel's house for the raid. They found white powder in his home too, and Ferrari decided to fire him. All his legacy and achievements were forgotten here. On the other hand, Coughlin went to Surrey with Ferrari's confidential pages, and then this email happened. Hello, Sir Stefano Domenicali. I am a Photoshop clerk in rural Surrey and a die-hard fan of Ferrari. I am writing this email to inform you about a suspicious activity that happened just an hour ago. A woman named Trudy Coughlin entered my shop and requested that I scan 780 pages and burn them onto 2 CDs. While processing the request, I noticed that several pages bore the Ferrari logo in the corner and appeared to contain technical data. They looked like highly confidential documents. When I Googled the woman's name, I found she is the wife of Mike Coughlin, the chief designer of the McLaren F1 team. Stefano Domenicali forwarded this email to the FIA on the fine morning of June 2007, leading police and civil engineers to raid Coughlin's house. Coughlin had gotten rid of the original papers, but their computers and USB ports told the world the full story. On July 4th, FIA officially started their investigation when Nigel gave an astonishing press conference to British media. He claimed he had no involvement in the case and insisted that Coughlin acted alone. The FIA believed him. McLaren fired Coughlin, and the team managed to shield itself from scandal or punishment. As a result, the first FIA investigation was quietly closed without causing much damage. But then, Fernando Alonso messed everything up. As a two-time world champion, Alonso was deep into his arrogant era, unwilling to share credit or space with rookie Lewis Hamilton. Alonso craved all the praise for himself, but Lewis was stealing the spotlight with his raw talent and sensational performances. Everyone was praising Hamilton, and Alonso was being forgotten. That started the famous rivalry of Formula One that was soon going to destroy the team. The 2006 season was for Lewis, so Alonso did a really mean thing during the 2007 season. McLaren was angry with Alonso, so he got a 30-second penalty in the race, which cost him his dignity and title. So, he stormed into team principal Ron Dennis's office to vent. In frustration, Alonso declared he had something against McLaren. Dennis didn't give any heed to his warning, but make sure to tell FIA president, Max Mosley. They were friends, and Dennis was sure that Mosley would never let him and his team down. Least he knew that this friend was going to stab him, killing his trust in friendship. Mosley invited Alonso, Lewis, and the test driver to come to his office and tell him whatever they know about McLaren. That meeting revealed 288 messages and 35 phone calls between Stepney and Coughlin, along with a damning number of emails and calls between drivers and engineers. This all proved that every driver and engineer knew about Coughlin's pages and were using the Ferrari information to win. This extraordinary meeting left Moseley with the hard task of giving the verdict against McLaren. He forgot about his friendship and declared that McLaren would be stripped of all Constructors' Championship points from 2007. With this, they would be fined $100 million. McLaren was already suffering financially, so this new fine left them in shambles. Their 2007 performance was making their sponsors happy, but after the announcement, they started leaving. After the verdict, Alonso announced he is leaving McLaren too and joining Ferrari. In short, McLaren's dream of making this year their year was broken. So, it started the Cold War between Moseley and Dennis. In this way, a new chapter of rivalry opened in the world of Formula One. Coughlin was suspended for 5 years, and then he again started his journey in Formula One. But Stepney was banned for life. This made him quite angry, and he declared that he would reveal the truth one day in his autobiography. He even announced the name of his autobiography, Red Mist. But in 2014, he died in a road accident. Now, a lot of people believe he had done suicide. Some believe it was an accident, and a few believe that he was murdered. Someone didn't want his autobiography to come out in front of the world, so they killed him before the book was published. In this way, the biggest cheating scandal of Formula One ended with a man killed. What are your thoughts about him? Do share with me in the comments section.